Often we see stories or films with the same repeat ideas, plots, and mistakes, known as cliches or tropes. So how can we avoid cliches or use them cleverly? Or what are other ways we can make our stories so that they do not appear the same as the hundreds of previous stories before ours? Keep watching to find out. Far too often, our stories fall flat. Come with me on my writing journey and let me teach you the science and techniques behind storytelling. Together, with our gift of words, let's make a positive difference in the world. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, to Masterpiece. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Masterpiece. I'm Nicole E. Ivory, and this is the second video in the Masterpiece playlist series. So let's get into this. Today we're talking about cliches in film. Now there are hundreds, but I'm only focusing on the first 5 I thought of or came up with. So if you have other ones that you know about, just leave them in the comments. So first up is villain monologues. I'm sure most of you probably know about this one because it's like in everything. Not literally, but a lot of things. For some reason, writers tend to like to have their villains describe the entire plan right when they're about to kill the hero. So then the hero lives and everything goes happily ever after. The villain loses. And in some cases, dies. So how can we avoid overusing monologues? And if we do use them, how can we use them creatively and in a way that enhances the plot? So why are villain monologues so frequently used? The answer is quite simple. It is a way to show and reveal all of the villain's plans and intentions in one moment. However, there are much more creative ways to reveal this information instead of just throwing it all at us in one giant dramatic monologue. Now, I'm not saying that villain monologues are bad. I personally love them. They are awesome, but they can be overdone very frequently in our films and television shows. Although often we have to do this, or, well, we don't necessarily have to, but we do it so that the villains don't actually kill the hero, because obviously they would not be a hero if they died. Well, actually, they might be. Some heroes do die. Jesus Christ is a really awesome example of that. But unless your hero dying is your theme or moral of the story, you probably don't want your hero to actually die. Although this does often present a problem when you cannot find a way to miraculously delay the villain so the hero lives. And actually, it is highly recommended that your antagonist is stronger than your protagonist. Actually, that is something you should do. Make your antagonist stronger than your protagonist. It makes your protagonist's victory all that much sweeter. Something that you should do then is find a way to have your protagonist win without them getting this whole, how do we put this? Get it a jail free card, aka a villain's monologue. So my number one recommendation is, well, easiest, of course, delete the monologue. Cut it out and find a way to incorporate everything else throughout the rest of the story without having the villain announce it all in a dramatic monologue about their tragic backstory. Actually, that's a lot of times what they're talking about. Or everything they didn't get, or how life is unfair for them. And I'm not saying it isn't, because that's a great motivation for villains, but at the same time, it is seriously overdone. I still love it, but it's overdone. Another thing we can do if you actually want your villain to have a monologue, and oftentimes you may, and I as well, do want my villains to often have monologues. So a way to do this that is not as cliche, in other words, a way to use it creatively, the concept of a villain's monologue, would be to still give your villain a monologue, but be more clever in where you place it in your story. Well, screenplay, since this is mostly about film. Although you can use this advice for books as well, go ahead and do so. For example, you could have them give the monologue earlier in the film, at a time when maybe we don't even know they are the antagonist. Maybe if they're an authority, they could give a speech, or if they're not an authority, maybe they can give a monologue when just having a conversation with someone, regardless of whether or not that person knows they're evil or not. Or maybe have them give a monologue at the beginning about his or her intentions, even though the monologue would be at the beginning and technically still would classify as a villain monologue. You are not giving it as an excuse to save the hero from their fate, I suppose. Rather, you're doing the monologue or placing it there for the sake of foreshadowing what threats lie ahead for the protagonist. Okay, so the second cliche that I'm going to look at is the tragic backstory. Yes, so many tragic backstories in like every story for every character, more so for the villain and the protagonist, but also for the protagonist frequently as well. And yes, it makes an amazing story for everyone to have a tragic backstory, but it can be overdone. There are plenty of things a character could struggle with or need help with or be searching after in the course of the story that is not related to a tragic backstory. Maybe there's something they desperately want. That could be their motivation for something rather than a tragic backstory. Same with villains. Rather than everything they do being the motivation of a tragic backstory, maybe they want something too. You should make sure that the hero and villain's goals match because it makes for a way better story. So something that you could do so that everyone does not have a tragic backstory is, well, number one, don't give them a tragic backstory. Give them something they want and desire. And maybe their lives are perfectly fine, but there's this something they really want and desire that causes the story to go where it does. The second thing you could do, rather than just deleting the backstory and replacing it with something else, is don't just have every family member die for the sake of it. Have intentions for why things happen. Don't just throw in the tragic backstory, use it with an intention, make it fit really well. The last thing that you could do is, well, put conflict in the family rather than just having everything be tragic. You could replace it with conflict. Conflict is so important, so yes, replace it with conflict. The third thing I'm going to look at for cliches is the no parents. This goes along with the tragic backstory. However, there's a little more into why it's specifically the parents that are often missing or dead. Not in every story, but frequently I find that the parents are not present. The reason for this is, without parents, there is no one to hold back the protagonist from doing what you want them to do. Yes, because we all know that parents are not going to go let their kids fight a supervillain. This isn't going to happen. No matter how much we wish our parents would let us go fight supervillains, well, for those of us who actually do want to fight them, it just isn't going to happen. That's why parents are not often present, is because they hold back the character from pursuing their goals and being able to save the world. Now, not always. Sometimes the parents that are written into stories do not hold back their kids from fighting evil. Sometimes the parents indeed are also crime fighters, but this is not as frequent, mainly because in reality, most of the time, that's not what's going to happen. So the first thing that you can do so that the parents are not dead is the parents are not present. This does not mean necessarily killing them off, but have your parents do something. Now make sure this thing fits with the plot and is not just for the sake of getting them out of the story. If it appears that it's for the sake of getting them out of the story, then yeah, that's not exactly what you want. You want to make it look like where the parents are going or why they are leaving home for whatever purpose makes sense. Not only has to make sense, it would be even better if it somehow has to do with the plot. Parents don't have to be crime fighters. They could just be going on a vacation, maybe to the place where the character ends up having to fight evil. Somehow make it fit. This way the parents are out of the picture for the majority of it, or they are in the picture but obliviously in the picture, without getting in the way. Or if they do get in the way, then the second thing you can do is, yes, have the parents as opposition. Have the parents trying to stop their kid, because that's what good loving parents do. They do not want their kids to go risk their lives. So the parents fight to stop their kid from doing everything that they shouldn't be doing. This creates additional opposition and makes life 10 times harder for your protagonist, or at least their hidden crime fighting life. So it actually makes for a better story because it adds more conflict. Third and final thing you can do is, of course, the parents are in the story and they may not be opposition. They might be on their kids' sides. They might be crime fighters. They may completely support their kid, or they are the bad guys. Any of those options are totally good as well. In fact, all three of these options are great, and they don't involve killing off the parents or having them go missing, unless that's your entire plot where the kid's trying to find their parents. That works too. The fourth cliche that I'm going to look at, we are going to call the Hallmark Cliché, because it is literally the plotline of every Hallmark movie in existence. It typically works like this. There's this lady somewhere in the world with a normal job, conflicts and struggles, just everything that a normal human struggles with. Somehow, in some way, she meets this guy that she falls in love with. Then, this other guy that she's usually engaged to, or is her boyfriend, shows up and things get complicated. Usually, the guy she fell in love with leaves her for some reason, or she leaves him, either way. Because sometimes it's the other guy's fiance or something that shows up. After they hate each other for a short period of time, they make up, fall in love again, and get married. And live happily ever after. The end. So a lot of people love this plot line. This is why it's so frequently used. As for a way to avoid using it, I got nothing. I really don't. I don't write romance. Honestly, just try something different. Be more unique about it. Change it up. Study the plot line and find ways to twist it or use it in a way that's more creative. That's really up to you. I don't have any personal suggestions, so yeah. But it is overdone. I see this particular plot line literally in every romance movie, then like Hallmark and the other channels that also do that. Sometimes for me anyway, annoying, but I'm not a huge fan of the romance genre, so for all of those who do like the romance genre, you may love that plot line. It's your decision. Personally, don't. Okay, so the last and fifth thing I'm going to look at, though they are more commonly seen in movies, are also sometimes in books. This typically is not. Weapons, specifically ones that require bullets and arrows, never run out of ammo or arrows. Literally. 1 minute, they have 3 arrows left, and the next they have 10. Or with guns, the ammo is unlimited. It's not really realistic, and honestly, this is something you simply have to fix by considering maybe downing the amount of ammo and arrows they use, and if they do use a significant amount, make them go get more. It really doesn't matter where they get them from, as long as they aren't magically with more. So when you write your screenplay, do not write them fighting for 15 minutes with unlimited arrow and ammo, because it is not realistic. It may look cool, but it is not realistic. Unless they have the magical ability to make more appear, do not magically give them arrows and ammo. Yeah, that's about all you have to do to solve that. So without further ado, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment below. Feel free to comment any ideas you may have for my future videos. And if you have a funny story or just a short story that can be told in under a minute that you'd like me to post as a Saturday story, feel free to comment it, and it may or may not make it into the video, but it probably will because I tend to be very limited on story ideas. Another thing is 76% of you are not subscribed. So please subscribe, because I know most of you are watching the videos and not subscribing, so please subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and please come back and watch my future videos.